Hello, good morning, and good afternoon. First of all, my apologies for the technical difficulties which held us from keeping and starting this webinar on time. But finally, we are here, and as I can see, also you are here, which is great, and we could start. My name is Juraj, I'm the head of product here at Resco, and I'm with my fellow product managers, Zuzana Curajova, Zuzana Barinkova, and Miroslav Majtaz, to walk you through Resco version 13.2, which is our autumn release. As usual, we would like to walk you through the features which we have added in this release, and this webinar is of course being recorded and will be available on YouTube shortly afterwards. You as the attendees are in the listen-only mode, but you are welcome to write your questions into the GoToWebinar window, and we will answer them after the webinar in the Q&A section. Also, there will be quite a few polls for you to show some interest or some feedback to us on some of the questions that we have. So I think without any further ado, let's get into it. So let me click here and start the presentation. So today we will be talking about our autumn release. So I don't know about your autumn, but the autumn here in Resco was and in Central Europe was quite foggy, and we've released our autumn release on the September 30th. It is actually quite feature-packed as usual, and today we will be covering these areas of our release. First of all, inspections with the localization update and performance improvements. Then we will be talking about Resco Houston, how we improve the drawing and make it available within the web client of Resco. And finally, we will talk about all the details of the platform, the new home screen configuration options, simplified configuration of images, and all the other new additions to platform capabilities. So with this, I would like to give the word to my colleague Zuzana Curajova to talk about the additions within inspections.
So hi guys, as usually, my name is Zuzana and I'm gonna show you some of the features we've been working on in past release, in the autumn release. In my very personal opinion, I do think that there are some very nice features. One of them being questionnaire localization, which I think has been actually quite overdue from our point, because this is something extremely useful in today. So what are we talking about? Let's have a look. You know our manager Johnny. Johnny designs the questionnaires, and Johnny speaks English. However, on the other side, there is our inspector or our mobile worker. His name is Hans and he repairs heavy machinery. However, Hans speaks German. So how do we achieve that these two people, which one of them designs the questionnaires but the other one is the actual worker using the mobile app, that they're gonna communicate the same questions they need to answer or the same processes? So this is where localization comes in handy. With current standards of globalization, we think that it's extremely important to give you guys an option that one questionnaire template would have several or one or more language mutations for a questionnaire template. Who do we think it's beneficial for? Well, it is extremely beneficial for a multilingual workforce, for example. Let's say your company or company of your clients is established in one country, however, the mobile workers can speak different languages. This is quite common these days. Or there is a company that operates across borders, which is our case of Johnny and Hans, meaning that there is a manager maybe sitting in the UK and he is in charge of designing of the processes. However, maybe these processes are common for Spain as well, and the Spanish worker needs to open the template in their native language. Or maybe even new customers. When are we gathering customers' feedback? Maybe we are talking to people that are not native and they speak a different language. These are all use cases that we think are actually extremely common, and they do need some kind of localization improvements in the questionnaires. How do we do this in Resco or in Resco Inspections? What you can aim for is either a professional translation of your questionnaire template or a manual translation directly in the Questionnaire Designer. This is something I'm going to show to you in the demonstration as well. You can let the mobile worker, the mobile user, select what language they want in the application, or you just set it for them in the Questionnaire Designer, and basically you just say, take the language that the application has as a default and show the template in that language automatically. What is the best thing is that there are no additional records that need to be synchronized, because only one template holds all the information about all the languages that are there and that it's been translated to. This is amazing information for you guys, because as you know, our synchronization times might get quite bad when it comes to synchronize too many records. So this in no way increases the synchronization time. In the Resco Inspection and in the Questionnaire Designer specifically, this is available for all kinds of items. Titles, you can translate labels, question descriptions, all questions that are options, checkboxes, even scoring. I mean, there's basically everything you can think of. But here I would like to point out one thing. What we do not translate is the actual answer text. What I mean by that is you might get an idea that if someone fills in the text, I don't know, in Spanish, then we somehow automatically translate it. This is not true at the moment. It's something we might work on in the future, but basically now we just give you the option to translate the questionnaire template itself. I'm going to show you a little demonstration. What I actually have is a pre-recorded video, but don't you worry guys, I will guide you through it right now. So basically what we are looking at is my inspection organization, and I'm going into my Questionnaire Designer. I'm going to show you a localization of equipment maintenance checklist. There is a button on the right in the toolbar that says Localization, and when you click there are a few options that you can follow. You can either add a language, choose one of them that you can see, and when you add it, you can basically see a transcript of your questionnaire template. And in actually quite user-friendly way, you can manually translate all the labels, option sets, question descriptions, I don't know, basically everything, group labels, group descriptions, etc., all the works. What you can also do is export and import this file. I'm going to show you how to import a file that I previously have, let's say, professionally translated by someone working externally, and this is in German. You can see I have it all filled out quite nicely, all option sets that are necessary, questions, labels, etc. There is also one more setting that you can set up, and that says whether the template in the application just takes the default language of the application, or the user themselves can choose what kind of language the template will be opened in. I'm going to save it and close it. And now I'm going to look into my application with you. I'm going to synchronize. I find my template at the bottom. And when I click on it, I should have a question whether I want to select, what kind of language I want to select. So you can see I selected German. And even though my application is in English, the questionnaire I opened is in German. Basically everything is translated, obviously apart from the CRM data that I'm taking directly from the database. When I finish this questionnaire and I run a report, you can see it in the language it has been filled out in. I just save this. And even when I go to the answered questionnaires, if you chose this option that the user can select, you can also see the answers in a different language. Obviously, with the exception of what I mentioned before, and that's written text that is not translated. So yeah, that was the demonstration. I hope you enjoyed it. I think this is extremely useful feature, and as I said before, I think also some of our partners have been requested it, so I'm very happy I can introduce this autumn. So right now we're going to the favorite part, at least our favorite part. I'd like to ask Yuri to help me out and to run my poll, and please just make your select your answer directly on your screen.
Okay, so I'm launching the poll. You should be seeing it on the screen right now, and feel free to indicate your answers.
Yeah, so what we're talking about is how many of your potential clients or current clients operate in a multilingual environment, meaning they can gain advantage using this feature.
So we have answers coming in, and I will be soon ending the poll and showing you the results. Okay, so I'm closing the poll and now sharing with you the results.
Okay, so we can see that the majority of you has 1 to 3 projects that they can use this feature in straight away. Thank you very much for voting. I hope even those that can't think of anything at the moment, I'm pretty sure that in near future something would come up and you would be lucky to find this feature in there. Okay, great.
So let me hide the results and you can continue.
Okay. Great. There is another feature I would like to talk to you about. This one might not be that flashy or fancy or marketable as I would say. However, it's extremely important for you as our partners and also for you as partners that might have big projects within Resco Inspections. And this is a performance and database footprint improvement. There are currently 2 main problems that we are seeing with big projects that are running Resco Inspections. One of them is rapidly increasing database footprint, which also leads to a slow synchronization. Why is this happening? Well, this is usually happening because our questionnaire database structure works as following. Basically, we have a questionnaire template, and everything that is an answered questionnaire is a copy of this template. This might come handy in some ways, but the downside is that sometimes we copy or duplicate some items between the templates and the answered questionnaires. And that leads to the increasing database footprint. Second big problem that we've seen you struggling with within a big project is a slow performance in the application and slow performance of the questionnaire designer. So how have we targeted these problems? Solution number 1 is an option for you to choose a dependency level. This at the moment means that you can select an option within a questionnaire designer that says that you do not want to duplicate images from templates. I mean, you can imagine that if you click this, if you choose not to duplicate them, basically you don't need to duplicate all the static images that you have in the template in order to show them in the answered questionnaires. Majority of cases should work without problems, because when you have the template synchronized in your application, it just really should be working flawlessly also for the answered questionnaires, and you save a lot of space and synchronization time. Solution number 2. We've introduced a smarter execution of rules in templates. What does this mean? Before or previously, basically all of the rules or majority of the unchanged rules have always been called when the template was being loaded. That's why our smart software engineers came up with a solution and a new algorithm that basically says, make sure that the on-change rules that are not necessary are not called at the moment of loading of the questionnaires. So now you can choose an option to use this smarter execution of the rules, and that should decrease the time of opening of the template quite significantly. Why do we think that you're actually gonna really love it? I mean, it's quite simple. You will have much less stuff to synchronize, which is always good. The designer is gonna be faster. And also, and most dominantly, I think the application is gonna be faster. And that should basically solve the majority of your problems you might be having with Resco inspections at the moment. I have a little demonstration video here as well. What I'm going to focus on is the smarter rules execution in this video. Welcome again, this time to my Questionnaire Designer, and a specific questionnaire template that has a lot of questions, as you can see, has a lot of on-change rules. We just try to somehow simulate a real-life scenario when the questionnaires have over 100 questions. In the property pane on the right, you can see there's a rules version number 1, which is basically the old version of the execution of the rules. And that's what we're gonna have a look at first. So I'm just gonna keep it on the version 1. And you can also see that version 2 is the newest version, or you can select the latest. So I'm going into my application. I also put my stopwatch or timer there, so you can see how long does it take to open this template. It's not gonna be exact, I had some delay, but just to get an idea. So it's loading now, and yeah, I had a bit of a delay in stopping, but let's say it's around 8 seconds with the old execution of the rules. But you can also see that there has been like over 81,000 rule calls when it was being opened. So now we're gonna compare it with the second version or the latest version of the rules execution. So let me just switch that to the latest. I'm gonna save it. I'm gonna synchronize the application. And let's see what difference has that made. Okay, I erased that. And once again, I'm gonna open the template. And it's opened already. So it's been around 3 seconds, which is a significant decrease of about 5 seconds. And also a significant decrease on the on-change rules calls after all, to 900 from 81,000, which is, I think, amazing. And also you can imagine if you have a really big project, a lot of synchronization, big templates, this is something that could definitely help you out. Okay guys, so those were 2 main inspections features this autumn. There have been some other improvements that I'm just gonna mention. I think the next one is worth mentioning. Basically, we have made accessible note field description through the questionnaire template. What it means is that until now, basically when you took a picture, let's say, within your questionnaire template, you couldn't access the actual attachment fields like you are normally used to in Resco Mobile CRM. So now we have made this option available for you. If you need to write into, something into the description of the attachment, you can do so directly in the template. This is actually this has been done on demand of our one of our partners, and when it can get basically useful is, for example, when using some kind of a custom reporting tool, and you have problems fetching the pictures in the correct place in the report, you can always write the description to them that is saved as basically to an attachment entity. There are some other small improvements. They're small but might come in handy. You can now move question groups up and down via button as we are used to with individual questions. There are some new ready-to-use templates, so you don't have to start from scratch. And we also added a default value for number questions that has been missing since spring. And that would be all, guys, from me. I hope you enjoyed this. Just let me point out there are other resources that you can, of course, look at. There are release notes for inspections that are already on our Resco wiki page. There is a very interesting blog about localization. Of course, feel free to reach out to me, anyone from our team and our support. They're gonna thank me for this. And yeah, it was great having you there. Now I'm going to give my hand over to other Zuzana, who is in charge of innovations.
Thank you, Zuzka. So hi everyone, thanks for joining and thanks for the wait. My name is Zuzana Barinkova and I'm the product manager for innovations at Resco, also responsible for Resco Houston. Resco Houston is our AI remote assistant that came to life a few months back, followed by the customer research we've been doing since January this year. And during this research, we identified problems related to the lack of expertise, very frequently rescheduled site visits, or COVID-19 restrictions related to the inability to travel. So we decided to come up with Resco Houston, our own AI remote assistance, as we believe that it's a solution to many of these problems. And our claim is solve complex problems simply because we believe that by providing simple visual instructions, the remote expert can very easily and quickly instruct the person on site or in the field without the need to travel and without the need for the person on site to go through any complicated manuals. So this was a quick introduction. Let me start with what's augmented reality first. As many of you might not know, augmented reality to some people still sounds as something very futuristic or sophisticated. But actually it shouldn't, because it works on a simple principle of overlaying virtual or digital information on the top of the real world. So basically what you can see through your screen doesn't actually exist there. It's a perceptual information. And this is where AI remote assistance, or in our case Resco Houston, comes in, because it enables the remote expert to draw AR visual annotations that help the person on site in need to very quickly and easily fix the problem. It's currently available on iOS for Resco Cloud, MS Dynamics, and Salesforce, and it's also available on web with the Q3 release on Resco Cloud. And in Q4 release, it will be partially available on Android as well. So one of the first questions that you might be asking is, what problems are you solving me? And the biggest problem we are trying to address are errors and downtimes, because they cost companies lots of money, and in these COVID times also many times customers. And errors are very closely connected to the lack of know-how or expertise in the field, which we identified during the research as the major problem in manufacturing, at least in some countries. And the third problem was COVID-19 restrictions, the inability to travel and to support people remotely. And we dare to say that even once the COVID is over, which we hope it will be over soon, the ability to support and share knowledge remotely will still become very relevant. Because companies realize that working remotely can be more effective in some cases. Also, last time during our webinar, I asked some of you if any of the problems concern you, and 70% of you confirmed that lack of expertise is a huge problem, followed by the COVID-19 restriction, lack of staff, and aging of the field techs, as well as the language barrier. So all these are problems that, at least to some extent, can be solved by Resco Houston. So what are the major benefits? It's definitely faster and cheaper issue solving, because the expert can very easily and very quickly help to save the problem the first time. And by working remotely and saving time traveling, he can cover more issues remotely rather than doing it physically. It's definitely less errors and downtimes, and by lowering the downtimes, we believe that it also brings happier customers and customer retention. Some other benefits Okay, sorry for a small technical problem. Some other benefits definitely are it can be definitely used for training purposes. For example, or when a company is relocating to, and you want to train the local workforce, so it can lower the knowledge gap between workers. And it certainly can help to solve the aging problem, because augmented reality is a feature that can attract millennials. We know that millennials are a digital generation, and augmented reality in combination with some new devices certainly can attract them into the field force, and to help to share the knowledge from the more seasoned workers to the younger ones. So why Resco Houston? Well, first of all, there are no additional costs at the moment on Resco side. It all depends on your Agora usage. So if you don't go over the 10,000 free minutes every month you get from Agora, basically you're not paying anything. Then the other benefit is integration with other CRM data. What I mean by that is that after every call, both parties have to fill in the phone call entity form. So who was on the call, what was the call about, how long did it last, and so on. And as you know, you can build dashboards on the top of that. So it definitely gives the manager an overview of maybe what are the repeating issues, where to focus on in training, and so on. We are also trying to make it available for as wide audience as possible. So we currently have it on iOS and web, and with the Q4 release, which will be this week, it will be available on Android. And having Houston on Android opens up other possibilities, like using it on ruggedized Android devices such as Caterpillar, Zebra, or RealWare Agent 1. It also works on MS Dynamics and Salesforce, and we also believe that we have a strong roadmap. So why not a standard call or SCAB, which is a frequent question? Well, we know that humans are very visual, and showing is more effective than explaining somebody over the phone or reading a manual. SCAB doesn't allow you to draw the instructions into the shared scene, and the already mentioned ability to connect data from the calls with other CRM data. And drawing is international, so it helps you to overcome the language barriers. Now, how to set it up? As I mentioned, Houston runs on Agora. Agora is the WebRTC video call solution. So to enable Houston in Woodford, you need to create an account on Agora. With every account, you get first 10,000 minutes every month for free. When you create an account, you do not have to input any credit card details. It's for free. And once you create a project, with every project, you get 2 credentials, App ID and the Certificate ID. You input these into Woodford in the Houston section, and the Houston command will automatically appear in the inspections form in the hamburger icon. You also need to enable notifications to be running. With the next release, the Q4 release, you will be able to access Houston from the standard entity form. So for example, if you would like to access Houston calls from contacts, you go into the contacts entity form, into the editor, and you edit into the list of commands. So the difference between inspections and the standard entity form is that with inspections, the command is added automatically, while with standard entity form, you need to edit manually. Now, how it looks and works. Also, based on our research, we're focusing on simplicity, because the more sophisticated or complicated solution and the interface, the lower the adoption rate there would be. So at the moment, you are able to draw, to select from a palette of colors. You have the undo option, the ability to mute your mic, the remote flashlight. And also with this release, we added the notes. So you can add notes from every call into the phone call entity form. So what's new in Q3? It's the ability to accept the calls from the web interface, because we believe that many times, or most of the times, that experts sit behind their desktop. Easy enablement in Woodford, the ability to add notes, and more precise drawing. So this is a short video demonstration from the inspection form. As I mentioned, you need to go into the form detail, you click the hamburger icon, select remote assistance, you select the user, and as soon as you are connected, you need to map the scene by moving the device to the sides so that the drawing is as precise as possible. And then you follow the instructions drawn by the expert. So he can change colors, You can even do some textual instructions. You can use the undo option. And the drawing should stick to the object even if you move the device. Just like you can see right now. And the last example, the visual instructions. Then the worker follows them. And he finishes the call and can input the details into the form. So what was the call about? Who was on the call? The date and the description. And it's added into the phone call entity list. This is the example from the web interface. So you receive a notification in the bottom right corner. You accept it, and you are directed into the Houston interface. And then the remote expert can instruct the frontline worker. So it's the same example as before, but from the side of the expert. And again, once he's done, he makes notes about the call and saves them. Okay, so what should you look forward to in Q4, which will be this week? We will have Android integration to some extent, so if you will initiate the call from Android, you will not be able to draw, but once you accept the call on Android from an AR-enabled iOS device, you will be able to draw, because it's always about the device that's initiating the call to have the AR enabled. Then the plane detection, by that we mean better AR reading of the scene, so which will result in better drawing precision. Then, as the already mentioned, calling from a standard entity form, also you will be able to not only to accept the calls on web, but also to initiate the calls. And surprise of this release will be standard video calls from RealWare Agent 1. And as I mentioned, having Houston on Android will open the options to have it on all kinds of ruggedized devices. So before I tell you what we have in the pipeline for Q1, I would like to ask you, what feature would you like to see in Q1? You will have multiple choice options. So, and the options are, Juri will launch the poll.
Okay. So you should be seeing the poll right now.
And the question is, which of the following features would you like to see in the Q1? And the options are the predefined arrows for better drawing precision, then the ability to annotate 2D photos sent through chat, so chat integration, external access for non-Resco users, the ability for the caller to draw into the shared scene, and RealWare Agent 1, so complex digital workflows in combination with remote calls.
So we have some votes already in, and I might be closing the poll soon. Just a quick note that you can actually select multiple options here, so indicate interest in more than just one area. Okay, so I'm closing the poll, and let me share with you the results.
Okay, this is surprising. So drawing by the caller, okay. Followed by the external access and the predefined arrows. Okay, thanks very much for your inputs. So this is what we already have planned. The predefined arrows, the external link, and the Resco on RealWare. So almost a match. And one last thing, we don't want innovations to be only about hardware and software. We also want it to be about the way we communicate. So we've started to work on some major UI and UX improvements, like, for example, the login screens and the login workflow or the dashboards. So I have a final question. Do you want to join other partners or clients who would like to, who are contributing into the final look and feel of the UI of the mobile application? Please let us know. So a simple yes/no question. We will not disclose the results of the poll this time. We'll keep it for the internal purposes. And we will most probably reach out to you and follow up in what brings biggest value for you, for example, to be in the dashboard. So let's give it a few more seconds.
We see some answers actually coming in, and yeah, there are quite a few people actually interested in participating on the UI research, which is great. So we'll give a couple of more seconds for some more people to indicate if they want to participate, and I will be closing the poll in a couple of seconds. All right, so closing the poll, and you can continue.
And that's all from me from Innovations. So thank you very much for listening. Don't forget you can reach us at innovations@resco.net, either if you have any issues that you believe Innovations could solve, or if you have any suggestions for future releases, or if you are using Innovations and would like to give us some feedback. So thank you, happy holidays. Don't forget there are some early Christmas presents from Resco this week, and stay healthy. Thank you, bye.
Yeah, and until Miro sets up, I just want to mention that feel free to write your questions into the GoToWebinar window as we speak, so we will answer them at the end of this segment. So Miro, take it for the platform, please.
Hello everybody. Today I will show you the new platform capabilities that fall outside the inspections and innovation categories. So we start with the introduction of things that are going to make life much better for those who configure apps in Resco. First one is about the new way of configuring the home screen. I think most of you are familiar how the home screen editor looked like before the autumn release. Yeah, it was just two simple lists. I mean, you could achieve what you wanted most of the time, but you couldn't see how your home screen would look like, and it took all a little longer than it could possibly have. So we decided to enhance the editor, and we will have a look at how you can work with it now. So let's do a quick demo. I'm in Woodford, and when I click the home screen component, the home screen editor loads up. And in the central part, I can see the representation of the home screen as you would see it in the app with the items that will be present there. On the left side, there is a hierarchical structure. So if you configured groups or folders, you can access the items within the folder there, as you can see right now. I want to go back to the root folder. So on the right pane, there are components that can be added onto the home screen as well as entities. And there are two ways how you can add items onto home screen. So first one is by drag and dropping the item directly onto the home screen representation, and the other one is by double clicking on the component that you select on the right side pane. You are able to also remove the items directly within the editor, and you can set the item to act as a startup item if that's what you wish. But the best thing, I think, is when you click the edit button, it takes you directly into the configuration screen of the particular component, which I believe should be a favorite thing for many of you. It will save some time. So that's basically how we work with the new home screen editor. And I'd like to have a first poll about the experience, how you like the experience with working with the home editor.
So I'm launching the poll. You should be seeing it on the screen right now.
Yeah. The question is very simple. I want to know how useful you find quite what I think quite a big redesign is for the feature, for the home screen component.
So we are getting some results in. And I will be closing the poll in a moment. And let's share the results.
Yeah. Okay, so the majority of you find it somewhat helpful, and almost one third of you finds it a very positive change. So I believe in the next release we'll convince those in the middle, and they will find it to be a very positive change, because we haven't stopped with making the home screen editor better, and you can expect further improvements in the next release.
So I'm hiding the poll results, and of course you can continue now.
Next, I want to spend a few moments talking about a better way of configuring images in Woodford. So we recognize that consumer apps have raised the UI standard pretty high for the business apps and for business users too. So that's why we are investing time and resources, Zuzka already mentioned that, into making our app UI nicer and also make it easier for you to create beautiful apps. So in this release, we made it possible to easily configure images for all types of form tabs using Image Picker. And in the following releases, we are planning to add new sets of beautiful business icons so that you don't have to look for them elsewhere. But let me show you how the new experience looks like. Very quick demo. So I'm in a new form, and I want to add some new tabs. But on the left-hand side, we can see the new configuring component, the image picker, which we've borrowed from the Questionnaire Designer. And when I want to add a new tab, for example, the list tab, it automatically comes with a beautiful icon. The same goes for any other type of tab. So when I want to add a signature, it automatically adds it with an icon, and the same goes for the timeline. I don't like the icon for the timeline. The representation doesn't look right to me, so I just quickly change it, and I've completed my demonstration of the form designer. Okay, let's move to another topic. Since the autumn release, we have a Woodford solution version for Dynamics 365 online environments. What's different? The online version of the Woodford solution carries a model-driven app named Resco Suite that contains all of the Resco tools for the app project configuration. So Resco is now accessible if you use the unified interface. Not much changes for you, as we kept the navigation structure of our tools in the model-driven app sitemap the same as you were used to in the navigation bar of the legacy UI, of the legacy Dynamics UI, which was accessible through settings. Next is Resco Cloud features. We added a few interesting things into our own Resco Cloud backend. First one is a new button in the report designer that generates preview of the report you're working on and helps you see how it is going to look like. A huge time saver, I would say. There's also faster synchronization for organizations connected via Resco CRM Sync. And in terms of security, we are providing the ability to define password expiration policy and the ability to force users to change their passwords. In the next segment, I'd like to talk about features that help mobile users in the field do their work better and in a more efficient way. The first feature is Timeline. It is a brand new component that allows you to see various types of activities chronologically. We created it as a tool for sales representatives and sales managers so that they can quickly see all the activities related, say, to an opportunity or account. It enables a quick overview of what is on your plate today, what's upcoming, and gets you to quickly recognize what's overdue. And on the other side, it gives you context of what events happened already for that account or opportunity and when. So in the quick demo, I'll show you how it looks and how to configure it. The timeline component is available on the left menu in the component section, and it is to be added on. It can be added on forms. So here I am in the form designer, and there is a button at timeline, and when I press it, since I haven't configured any timeline before, I can create a new one directly from the form designer. So I want to add a meaningful entity for my account, which would be activity entity appointment. On the right side, I have some fields that need to be configured so that the timeline component works correctly, but they are already configured properly. I just remain to pick the closed states so that the timeline component knows when the activity is completed. I'm adding a new entity, which is a phone call. Again, I'm checking the configuration, and it looks all right. I'm adding the closed statuses, and I want to add the final entity for my timeline, which would be the activity entity task. Again, checking the configuration, looks about right, picking the closed states, and I'll be finished with the configuration soon. I want to change the icon since it represents it better, and here I am in the app on the account record, and I switch the tab to timeline, and I can see the chronological representation of the activities. On the top, I can see the upcoming and overdue activities. I had to prepare some presentation for today's final decision meeting, and it was red because it was due. And on the bottom, I can see on the second segment there is past and done activities to give me context. You can configure what you see in the timeline component directly on the screen. So you can filter out the activities you don't want to see at the moment. And the second option allows you to switch between two types of view, condensed and full. So condensed view would be useful when you have a lot of records and you want to see them all at once. So that's basically timeline in a nutshell. Next up is process component. We covered it extensively during the summer update webinar, where I showed you how to configure it and how it is used in the app. So today I'll just mention the improvements we've done in this release. We polished the UI a little bit so that you can work with it a little more easier. We also improved the config, which should be now more intuitive. There is added ability to delete steps from the process. And the biggest addition is the ability to group the final statuses under one. So on the opportunity process component, we can see the little flags that represent the final steps of the process. it doesn't make sense for them to be displayed in a linear fashion, but it makes sense to group them under one closed status. So in the app, when you are in the final step, they will appear as options so that you can select the appropriate closing status. Next one feature is Docusign Integration. It was available in Resco already before this release, but it was only working online. So we had a lot of requests to make it work in scenarios where going out, catching a signal is not an option. So we made it work offline by integrating the Docusign SDK. And you are now able to sign reports or PDFs using legally binding signatures offline. This works on Android, and we are working on covering other platforms too. That's still not all. We added Salesforce Chatter support that is now available as beta. We added the ability to disable multi-select in views and other features that you can make yourself familiar with by visiting this URL. That's really all from me today, and I'm giving the mic to Juri.
So, thank you, Miro. And as you could see, there is quite a few features that we've had within this release. The full list, once again, can be accessed via our wiki. And we've made this short link for you so you can quickly access it right now if you want to. So I think that this brings us to the end of today's webinar, and I want to encourage you to let us know which of the features you've seen you can use in the project you are working on right now, or maybe even tomorrow you'll start your Woodford tool and you will look for ways how to add those features in, or maybe for your next projects or something that you find useful. Let us know what you think about those, and of course any questions that you have. And yeah, that brings us to the Q&A section. So I would like to invite my fellow product managers to the table. We'll try to look at the questions that are coming in, and probably in the order as we were presenting. So first, let's look at the questions which were related to the inspections features. Sorry for the slide. So yeah, like this. And Zuzka, I give the word to you.
Okay, thanks, Yuri. So let me check the questions out first.
Let me open it up for you. So I think we start.
Yeah.
We start here.
Okay, so there's one question that's asking during the presentation of questionnaire localization whether the Dutch language is not supported. I just checked the list, and Dutch language is definitely supported, so you can use that as well. Another question from Peter is whether the localization also work with custom objects, not in inspections. I mean, here, if I understood it correctly, basically in Woodford you can use localization. It's embedded in Woodford. It has been for years, so you can use it with any objects that you're using in our application. Another question from Jarno, if I said it correctly, is about how is the multi-language connected to generating reports in multiple languages. I will try to explain it as simple as possible. Basically, at the moment, if you already have a report localized for a certain language in the application, then that one is being run on the questionnaire entity, regardless in what language you fill out the questionnaire itself. But there is something we would like to introduce in upcoming releases, that you can, after filling out the questionnaire template, even with localization, you can still select a language of the report from all the languages that are available. So that would be for that. And
let me see if there is something additional that we've received recently, so I don't think there is one for you. So thank you, Zuzi, and maybe we can ask other Zuzka.
Thank you as well. Again, giving my word to other Zuzka. There's a lot of Zuzkas today.
So the questions about Houston and, of course, the innovation. So I think we can start here with the license question for Houston.
Okay, so hello again. So a question from Peter, which license do I need for Houston? At the moment, you still need inspections license, but this is going to change with this week's release because Houston will be available. We call it outside inspection, so you would only need the standard license. And another question from Peter, is there a license management for Houston? For example, customer using it to communicate it to us? Well, license management is something that is planned for 2021, but in Q1 we are planning on having the ability for the external users, if they are not using Resco, to access Houston. So hopefully it answers other questions. I think that's all for innovations. Thank you.
Okay, and I think we have two questions about the timeline component. And the first one is, I think there's one because it appeared during the piece about the segment about timeline. So if we see that as a use case for service technicians.
Well, firstly we thought about covering the needs of the, as I said during the presentation, sales representatives and sales managers, but I don't think that it's limited to just that, and that's up to the creativity of you, our partners, there is a possibility to use this kind of component, and if you see it fit to use it for a field service scenario, I think you can. And the second question is this timeline piece also implemented in the inspections app to get overview of your outstanding uncompleted appointments? Not sure at the moment if the questionnaire entity contains all the fields that are expected and necessary for the timeline components to function properly, but I'll get into it and I can get back to you with it, right? So.
I think that's all the questions that we've had today. So with this, I would like to conclude our presentation and the webinar for today. Thank you for the attention, and again, sorry for starting a little bit later, but I've seen that a great deal of you actually stayed with us for the whole time, and quite a lot actually asked and interacted, which is great. We will be hearing ourselves probably quite soon, because as we have indicated, our winter release will be available shortly, and of course the webinar will follow probably in January 2020. So thank you again, and hope to see you and hear you soon.